Friends in a Podcast. We're so glad you're here.
We're your hosts, Natasha
and Lindsey.
Welcome back to Two Maine Friends. We are talking about 2025, setting goals. With New Year's coming right up, we thought it would be fun to just have a quick, light conversation about goal setting and what the new year looks like, how we kind of make goals. Like typically around this time of year, I feel very reflective and I just kind of reminisce on the things that have happened in the past year. And this year, I find myself not really in that headspace. So it's kind of hard to wrap my brain around the fact that we're getting ready for another new year. I don't know how you feel, Lindsey, but it's been very different.
I agree. I feel like this year has flown by. And when we think about a New Year's episode, I'm like, wow, it's already almost January 1st, 2025. This year has just gone by immensely fast. A lot of things in my life has changed this year. Every year I do the one word resolution or something that I just want to work towards. So last year was growth. I wanted to grow professionally. I wanted to grow personally, and I learned a lot during that growth season. When I'm going into next year, I want gratitude. I think there's so many moments that when I look back, I wish I'd been a little bit more grateful. So I want to take those moments this year to pause and just be grateful for the world around me, the circumstances around me, the people around me. I think it's easy to get caught up in our day-to-day and forget to just be grateful for what we have. So that's what I want to focus on in 2025, more gratitude.
I think that's so great because it's really easy to get caught up in what we're going through. That, like you said, it's harder to keep an attitude of gratitude, right? Like we hear that phrase a lot. But I think that there's something to be said about giving room for gratitude, like something we do in our family. I try to do it on a daily basis, not consistent because I'm not that mom. I try really hard, but generally it's like at least once a week, I will randomly, so they never know when it's coming, ask my kids, what are you grateful for today? And it's just one of those spontaneous little moments, right, that kind of helps put things back into perspective because it's easy to get caught up in what we don't have, what we wish we were, who we are, who we don't have, those kinds of things. But if you stop for just even once a day and say, what am I grateful for today? And it helps shift our perspective to really put us back in a state of mind that's like, wow, I really do have a lot to be grateful for. I remember a few years ago when I worked in an office, I had some time alone quite a bit because of where I was working. And during that season, I would typically try every day to write 3 things, and they had to be different than the day before that I was grateful for every day. And it was really helpful to actually have to actively think about, what am I grateful for? So I think that that's a really good goal for you to have for next year. I hope it goes well.
Me too.
And you'll have to keep us updated on that.
Yeah, definitely. We'll have this conversation again in December of 2025 and see how well I did. I think when I start thinking too about wrapping up the new year, you think about the growth that you had in the past year. Is there anything or any specific area in your life that you're like, wow, I really did come this far this year, or I'm really proud of myself for accomplishing this, insert thought there?
Wow, that's a good question. I don't know if I know how to answer it. Honestly, I don't think I've been reflective. Typically, I'm reflective this time of year. And I think based on just how fast the year has gone by, it's been a little bit harder to get in that frame of mind. But I will say that this year, I was really grateful for a lot of the family time that we had. We were able to take more trips than we usually do. Some of them spontaneous, some of them were planned. But the amount of family time that we had and really just spending time with my boys was more than my heart could ever have wanted. And we just had so many great memory-making moments that is what I'm holding close to my heart this year. And when I reflect on 2025, that's what stands out the most. Not the things that I got or things like that. It's those memories that we made because I'm really big on making memories and wanting to enjoy the adventure that we're on in life with our kids. And My kids are 9 and almost 6. And so, oh no, when this comes out, my youngest will be 6, which is wild to wrap my brain around. But yeah, so just being intentional with the time that we spend with them. So I don't know that I've grown necessarily, but I have enjoyed those moments of growth as a family.
Absolutely. I think for me, I started therapy this year, which has been a huge growth moment for me. Just being able to pinpoint why I have habits that I have, where those developed from, and coming up with the tools that I wasn't able to create for myself through this process. And also just having someone who's non-biased, not my friend, not my family, asking me the tough questions and not having any reason to not be honest with them. Because sometimes with your friends and family, you kind of just like smooth things over. Everything's fine. It's good. Because you don't want them to see the struggling side of you. So it's just kind of been nice to be able to get outside of my head a little bit and get a fresh, different perspective. But also somebody who is there to help, get you past that hurdle or past that hump has been nice as well. I think in a more maybe superficial way, I guess not superficial, but I have just really proud of myself this year for taking small moments to get away from work. If you know me, I throw my whole self into work.
And I do know you.
This is probably the first year that I've turned my email off. I went on a cruise, my first cruise. That was a huge bucket list item for me. If you know me, I am doing a 40 things I want to do before I'm 40. I'm 38 and a half. So we're getting there quick. So I went on a cruise. That was on my 40 things to do before I'm 40. And I turned my email off the entire week I was gone. And it was so great and just felt amazing to not have any responsibility, no expectations. And if you haven't gone on a cruise, I think if you are a person who sets expectations and like has to have everything planned out, the cruise is great because it does it all for you and you literally don't have to do anything. So it is the planner's dream to just sit back and not have to worry about it because it is planned.
I love that. And I'm so proud of you. Like, I genuinely mean that. I know how hard it is to take the step to start therapy. I've done that myself a few years ago, and I'm a huge advocate for that because you do need an outside perspective from life and a non-biased person that can say, hey, no, it's not really that bad, or you've got to work on that, right? And so I just want to applaud you because I am so proud of you for stepping out of your comfort zone, because that's part of it. You have to get out of what's familiar to do the next thing. And I think that's really brave and important. And so good job.
Thank you. It's a mental and emotional trust fall. I would never let anybody physically do that. So doing it mentally and emotionally has also been a challenge. And I get it. A lot of it for me was pride, not wanting to, but it's been one of the best things that I dove into and took advantage of. So I'm thankful for that tool for sure. So we've been talking a lot about friendships. That's what this whole podcast is about. So when we're going into the new year, how are some ways that you can stay connected to your current relationships?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think being intentional about staying in communication is one, right? So like that's texting, that's Snapchat, that's Instagram, all the things. We laugh because sometimes we're sending each other reels or talking on Snapchat about something completely unrelated and then texting about something else. And so if you've ever been there, we do it too. And if you don't, that's okay. But I think that intentionally spending time in communication, right? Like it doesn't have to be a 3-hour phone call every time, but that text that was like, hey, I made this for dinner and it was really good, right? Like you're talking about something consistently. And I think that helps keep the door of communication open to then have deeper conversations when the time presents itself.
Absolutely. Sometimes it is just that Snapchat of what you made for dinner that sparks the conversation of, oh, well, what did you make? Can you send me that recipe? And then we just start talking about other things. How was your day? Even just the simple little text when somebody crosses your mind and saying, hey, how are you today? I was thinking about you, can go so far. You don't know what it's going to mean to the person receiving that at the end of the day.
Oh, and I try really hard to do that when I think of them, whether it's through Facebook Messenger or however you communicate. And I try, if someone crosses my mind, especially if it's like a couple times in a couple of days, to reach out to them and be like, hey, I was really thinking about you. Hope you're doing well. that kind of thing. And it's been really helpful to have that communication open with people. I know, going back to the dinner thing, my sister and I text pretty much every day. And that's one of the questions we ask each other on a daily basis is, so what are you making for dinner? I don't know. What are you making for dinner? And it's a silly thing, but like, I really enjoy those conversations because sometimes I don't have an idea, right? And you don't ever know what someone's going through. And sometimes, like you said, like that text of, hey, I was thinking about you can really lift someone's spirits, especially if they're walking through maybe a season of loneliness, or maybe they're not really connected with a close friend. And that text can mean the world. Like, I know when I've received them, right? Because I send them out frequently. So when I receive a text like that, it really just warms my heart to think, oh, wow, like they were thinking of me today. That's so fun.
I'm really bad at that. So it's something that I do try to be more intentional on. You're so great at happy Monday, happy Tuesday, whatever the day of the week is, sending that text off in the mornings. And then I always feel bad because I'm like, I've been up for 2 hours and hadn't even thought about texting anyone, anything like that. But I've been trying to be better about reciprocating or doing it first. But it's usually because I have a question for you, being honest.
And that's fine. Like, and I think that has come with the years of experience in our life, right?
Right.
And, if you're not there in a relationship, that's okay. But I think just starting the conversation is so important because it could just be happy Monday and maybe they don't respond until Thursday. That's okay because I've solidly done that where I've opened a text, looked at it and like, oh yeah, that's cool. And then 2 days later, I'm like, oh no, I never said anything back. I'm so sorry.
I am guilty as charged. I wear an Apple Watch every day, and sometimes I will look at the message on my watch, which marks it as read on my phone, and then I completely forget to go back to it. Or even worse, like when I work at the Y on Saturday and Sundays, I will see it and I'll just kind of hit the mute button and not even look at the message, but know that it vibrated somewhere. But I don't know where, as it's doing right now, actually. And then I never respond to that person until they message me. They're like, hey, did you get my message? It could be weeks later sometimes in that situation. So.
Yeah. And I'm really bad about that in like the middle of stuff, right? Like, so if I'm at work or in the middle of an event or something that we've attended and I'm like, oh yeah. And it's solidly 2 days later. Like, I'm really sorry. It's not intentional, I promise.
I think that is a good segue into my next question of how we can better support and encourage other people. So those text messages are a great way to do that. But in the new year, who are those people in your life that maybe need just that little extra encouragement? And what are some ways that you can do that?
Yeah, that's a great one. I think being willing to listen is helpful, but also being willing to ask the question, right? Because I know for me, I will be willing to help and support you, but I'm not necessarily as quick to say I need support, right? So if you're the person giving the support, maybe asking if they need support, but if you're the person receiving it, being okay with receiving it, I think is important too. And that's not easy for everybody. Some people are really great at asking for help. Like, hey, I need help with this project that I'm working on. Can you come over and help me? Great, for sure. But some of us, if you're like me, really struggle with the reaching out of like, hey, I'm not in a great space. Can you come over and just sit on my couch with me while we eat ice cream?
Yeah. And again, I think that goes back to being vulnerable and allowing yourself the space. We talked about this a little bit in previous episodes. Giving people the opportunity to support you is important. If you need the support, it's okay to ask for it, and it's okay to be vulnerable and allow other people in to do that for you, because at the end of the day, we crave connection. We need connection in our life completely.
And I think, especially if you're in a dark space, it's so hard because I've walked through this. It's really hard to be okay with, and not even be okay, but even know how. Like sometimes you don't even know what you need or what you're looking for. So you don't say anything because what am I asking you to do for me? Like,
right. Well, when it's emotional and you just need somebody to sit with you, or it's mental, like you just need a little hand to sit with you and just exist with you. Sometimes just existing with another person helps them get out of that mood that they're in, or that shape-shifting. We talk, sometimes about the seasons changing and how that makes us feel a little down. And sometimes it's just getting outside with someone or going out for coffee with someone, getting us out of the four walls of our dark house when it's 3:00 and the sun is down and we need that extra boost. You know, we need those moments for sure.
I was just having a conversation about that very thing today before we recorded this, about how sometimes when you're doing the routine of life, it's really hard to break out of that routine. But then when you do it, you see the value in having that coffee with a friend, going out for brunch with a group of friends, or, you know, maybe it's going shopping, whatever the thing is, to kind of break out of that cycle, because then you are in a different frame of mind and you're with other people and you're hearing different stories, and it's so helpful. But to take the step to do that sometimes is so hard, because this is just my life. I do Monday through Friday. And sometimes you don't even have capacity to be able to think about the idea of going out again, right? But then when you do it, it does bring more life.
I was just having this conversation with someone the other day that in the winter, specifically in the winter, the summertime, I'm a little bit more flexible on this rule. But in Maine, it gets very, very dark at 3:00 in the afternoon. When I get home from work at 5:30 p.m., I am putting on my sweatpants and I am lounging on the couch, and don't ask me to come anywhere after that. Once I'm home, and I'm not leaving again.
And in addition to that, I don't know if you do this, but this is how I operate in the wintertime. You go to the places you absolutely have to go, but
Absolutely.
You're not taking a detour to like just stop at Target on your way home because you feel like perusing Target. Like, you drive to the place you have to go, and then you immediately go home because it's cold and it's dark. And you can't get me to like do extra things outside of those things.
I'm very lucky. I have a 1-hour lunch break. And so there's grocery stores. Hannaford, not everyone has that, but there's a grocery store down the road. There's a big shopping plaza. So from my lunch break, that is when I do my grocery shopping. I do not want to do extracurriculars after 5:00. I just do not have the time.
See, so this year, one of the things that I love is that I hopped on the Walmart Plus train. Uh-huh. So all of my groceries get delivered, and I don't go to the store. Like, if I can avoid it at all costs, I don't do it. And actually, we just went last weekend, and it was not an enjoyable experience. And my husband just said to me yesterday, I don't think you should ever go back into a store like that ever again. And I was like, I agree with you. I don't want to. This is why we have delivery.
I love it. I love it. Just to back up a little bit, we talked about getting out of our routines, talking about what we're going through, how we're feeling, the good and the bad.
Yeah.
But what if we were a little bit more honest in 2025 with ourselves, but also with the people in our life? So how would your life in 2025 be different if you stopped answering questions with, I'm fine, everything's okay, when they're not? Because sometimes they are. Most times they are. Right? Things can be going good. Yeah. But most times when things are going good or great, we talk about those. We embellish a little bit on those moments because we're excited about it. But what about in the dark times, instead of just answering, I'm fine, being a little bit more vulnerable with the people around us?
I think that's a great question, because how much more connected would we feel to the people around us knowing that they can see you, right? I think that there's so much importance to know, like having a handful of people, maybe it's one or two, that really know what's going on so that they can speak into our life, encourage us, or recognize when we're pulling away so they can pull us out. And I think that's a great challenge for 2025 for all of us to consider, like, how would we feel more connected? How would that impact our relationships, both marriages, friendships, all of those intertwined. Because if we're honest, then it also gives space for people to return that honesty. Because if you're willing to share with me what you're struggling with, I'm going to be more open to say, oh, I can share that with you because you shared something hard with me. And then suddenly our burdens don't feel quite as heavy.
No. Sometimes I think that we look at other people's lives and think they have it all together. I had a mentor a few years ago, many years ago now, actually. She talked a lot about intimacy, and she broke it down that intimacy doesn't have to just exist in a marriage. It can exist in everyday relationships. And one thing that she and her husband used to always say to us was, intimacy, if you break it out, it kind of sounds like into me see. And so intimacy is just seeing into the other person's life and being able to speak into that person and pull out of that person maybe what they are going through and giving them that safe space. So maybe we create more intimate relationships, more open relationships where we can see into each other and speak to each other in ways that are going to encourage us and lift us up in this new year to be the best versions of ourselves.
Yeah. And, I think that's a great way to kind of wrap up this episode so that we can all take a minute to reflect and consider what would that look like if next year when people ask, how are we doing? And you don't have to answer that deeply for every person, but for the people that you're connected with, that you call your friends, how would that affect your relationship if you responded with, actually today was really hard, and see what happens.
That's a wrap on this episode of Two Maine Friends in a Podcast. Follow us on Facebook or Instagram. You can also send us an email at twomainefriends@gmail.com. And as always, leave us a review wherever you're listening.